And if you look at TikTok recently, this girl that says spit on his face or something like that.
You gotta give him that huck.
The talk will be about investing in movements, which is kind of a new thesis that basically said that in crypto and also in technology in general, we are in the end of the utility age, and I'll explain what it is. And we are getting into the cult age or the movement age. And so what I mean by that is that since technology started and crypto started, basically the mental model for what is valuable was borrowed from traditional businesses. So since Warren Buffett started with the theory of value and cash flows and cheap businesses, good businesses, cheap prices, technologies. The technology sector got also this idea, and also crypto borrowed this idea, and this idea worked quite well because it encouraged people to build new technologies. But right now, both in technology with AI and in crypto, we are in a point of time of that technology is becoming a utility. And also, like when measuring revenues, we are starting to see that the revenues is not because of the technology. The revenues is because of the kind of tightness of the group underlying and the power of the beliefs. So the general idea basically is saying that the main kind of motivator of value, or the main denominator of value, is the cult value, and the next kind of big like event, or like the next Apple, the next Bitcoin, it's probably going to be a movement and not a company. So that's kind of the general, the general idea. But I wanted to basically break this conversation into a few parts that try to dive deeper. And so I think we can break it into definitions. So the first part will be definitions, like what we mean by movements or by culture or by cult, when it is a cult and when it's not, and we can discuss it. So first is definition. Second is how to measure and how to invest in movements, and some ideas for how to approach it, because some are already tokenized, some are not. So what kind of ideas there? And then like what ideologies we are supporting, because I feel like it's very important when you're speaking about movements to really speak about your ideology as well, because you cannot be neutral and kind of investing in movements, because it's almost like I don't know, it's like investing in knives, and these knives can use to make a great meal, and can also kill someone. So I think it's very important to kind of be clear regarding what kind of movements we want, what kind of movements we don't want, and why. Okay, so again, this is a conversation. If you guys want to also bring your own flavor, then feel free to do it. Okay, so the first thing, what is a movement, when something is considered a movement, when something is not. So I'll give kind of a few definitions, and then you can also get in the middle and add. And so okay, so the first definition is people that share a secret or a culture that define their identity. So when they are for example, I'm Jewish, and I'm also Israeli, I'm also entrepreneur, I'm also like other things. But in the internet age, we have a lot of identities because we are interacting with a lot of things, as opposed to what it used to be that people were not interacting. So we have a lot of identities, and this makes identity groups for every individual. And so when it is a movement is when there is a group of people that share the same thing that is so strong to their identity that is enough to define their identity. In many cases, it's also against another group. In many cases, it's about things that are moral and things that are not moral, that they are, that is so important to them to kind of changing the world. Okay, so that's kind of one thing. Another thing is something that I borrowed from Milady. It's basically a driver license to live differently. So what I mean by that? So Milady, for example, in the Milady community, they believe in the anti-cancel culture, or in this belief that you can do. Thank you. That you can do that you can say whatever you want to say, that you can do whatever you want to do, and this is against kind of the main culture that is currently in the United States, that you need to pay attention to what you want to say or even think, because you can policed by the other people, so you just need to be like the other people. And Milady goes so far in that theory that they are even doing things that they are not believing, like this racism behavior is basically a way for them to kind of prove that they are not in the canceling regime. So that's for me, too much, because you only need to do what you actually believe in. But it's very brave on the other hand, and I'm very appreciating it. That they are doing something that they believe, even if it's going so far. So I guess like something that defined you, something that give you a kind of a driver license to live differently, could be something moral or not moral, like pick a topic in the world. And it can also come from different places. Like if you look at the kind of components of a culture, you have the visual, you have the words, you have the values, you have kind of the thing that the culture meant to solve, the topic, and some cultures approach it from different places, but sometimes it's enough to even do one word to have a culture. So it's very interesting that a culture is not always, is very nuanced, is not always kind of clear regarding, what is the ideology. Sometimes, if you look at TikTok recently, just Ramilio, right? And if you look at TikTok recently, this girl that says spit on his face or something like that. So this is like, I see her as like the Andrew Tate, like the girl version of Andrew Tate. A lot of girls are like oppressed almost like by society, that they are weak, exactly. Hack to they are like in the kitchen, and then like just a girl that say one word that is not shy to express the sexuality of the girl. I see it almost like the counter force of Andrew Tate. So sometimes cultures are not very defined. They are just one word. Exactly, like in a single sentence, in a single word, aligned everyone around. And so that was two. I have another one that I borrowed from the religious world, because I'm practicing something in Judaism and so on. And I have a rabbi that is very, like successful. Or so this rabbi have its own culture or its own cult. And what I mean by that, so in the religion, there is a religion that is a biblical story, and then there is the culture that is how to work, how to do it, like what's the style, what's the right way to do it. And so he is not shy away from money, for example. Is like, you need to make money, making money is moral, making money is okay. And so his believers is completely different from another kind of direction of the Judaism that says, oh, we need to be modest, we need to be kind of poor is good. And in the Christian world, there is also this kind of things. And what is interesting is that the religion is very strong base. We speak about religion as well, but I feel like we almost forgot about religion. And religion is kind of a package that basically solve your whole life. Like, it's giving you instructions for what to do in your life in every topic, and give you meaning that is so historical, since the world was started. So and right now you see churches decline, and that's unfortunate. And I think like these cultures can be a way to bring back religion into the picture, because I feel like a lot of priests and a lot of rabbis can align with in modern cultures like acceleration and others, and can basically get people to live much better life, much less loneliness. Because I feel like the big problem that we're trying to solve here is loneliness and lack of meaning. I think that's kind of the biggest problem that also can be solved in crypto. I mean, that crypto can solve and align people around. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of first step. If you guys have any thoughts, any additional kind of definitions, feel free to jump
No,
in.
I agree with you that probably loneliness and being a part of the community is one of the most important for like the driver of the cult. So people believe that they are united by one ideology, one idea that basically make them less vulnerable for anything. Once they are kind of part of this cult or ideology, makes them feel stronger, safer. Yeah, and I honestly agree that the kind of the shorter the cult, like the shorter the statement of the cult is, it's better. Like, so it can create a mass adoption and let all people kind of understand what it is about. So I guess the recent example that you presented about the act to a girl, that's a very clear. The message is very simple. Everyone realized that it's not about just sexual thing. It's just about having a girl that is that retarded as all men want. So they don't want like other things, right? They want girls to be retarded. They want to be fun. They want to be like understanding the needs of the men. And the means are exactly can be described in this very short, solid message.
Yeah, for sure. I like that you said the protection, because I see also Judaism as a kind of network of protection. Like that the Jews are protecting the Jews, and no one can harm them, although the whole world is trying to harm them. So I feel like protection for the group, that no one can harm them from the outside, is very powerful.
Yeah, it's easier to be a part of the group than like fighting against the world. I guess that like that's why people are like, even if you look at the like the parties in the US, Democratic and Republican Party, all these people, their life is basically circling around the ideology of these parties. And yeah, I mean, they base their own defense considering the leaders of this party.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see over the last, I don't know, maybe the last 8 days, the hyper condensing that's occurred at the Republicans, and like who can identify as that, who can't, like in the United States, like and beyond. It's kind of like probably either the greatest coming out party we've ever had in the country of people who actually already agreed, or the largest, like this is the equivalent of like a tent revival of like a Christianity spreading through the middle of nowhere or whatever. Like it's fascinating to see this level of cult adoption. And I think this is what something I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 months is like, crypto wise, looking at like the Ton ecosystem and like the daily actives that keep showing up. I need to know if they're bots or if they're humans, because if they're humans, we need to understand what's happening. Like, how are 4 million daily actives joining a thing within 2 weeks? Like, what's happening there that we're all missing? Like, how are no apps on base at 4 million daily actives in 2 weeks, but an app on Ton is there in 2 weeks? You know what I mean? Like, what are we missing? Like, because there's huge disconnect if that's real. To watch the Republican Party swell by 2 or 3x within 2 weeks, and to watch Ton have 4 million daily active users on a random app in 2 weeks. Like, how is ETH 10 years old and doesn't come close? Like, what are we missing?
For sure. Yeah, that's all clues for how like these deep beliefs drive the usage much more than the qualities of the product or that feature.
Yeah, I guess I mean a lot of cults are formed when there's like focused hate. So I know like even in the Bitcoin community, you know, people hate the red laser-eyed, people hate the centralized financial system, or even people like that gather towards meme coins, right? Like you'll get a lot of, you know, mottos of like with, for example, like coin without like a centralized governor and stuff like that. So I guess that's like a really, and again, like even with politics and such, people like in cults use hate to really establish further connections with each other. Like I think that's maybe like another, you know, different definition. Also, like when you mentioned like Milady, right? Like people hate the current system, the current cancel culture, and then go far and beyond even as to like include racism and stuff like that to really prove that to each other, and then, you know, build a greater bond with each other, and then that kind of like pushes the cult / culture forward.
No, for sure. Like I feel hate or some kind of Also in Trump there is like a kind of you know, yeah, I feel so with Trump there is this book called the fourth turning that speaks about left and right kind of pendulum and I feel like right now in the last 10 years of 5 to 10 years, the fourth turning, exactly. Avi, so maybe you can tell us like what's the fourth turning that led to Trump kind of rising.
So I bought the book. I meant to start reading. I just got a couple weeks ago, and someone told me about it. But from my understanding, that like you know, like there has to be like these radical, and you know, Tan, you can let me know if I'm off. Usually, like there's like these radical events that drive everyone like back like to the center. Like so, for example, after like 9/11, like George W. You know, let's start. Ronald Reagan was almost was assassinated. I think like in 1981, 1982. So in 1984, the election that he ran, he won 49 states, which is unheard of. The only state he lost was, I think, was Wisconsin or Minnesota, the other candidates' home state. And the same thing in 9/11. After 9/11, George W. Bush had like a 91% approval rating in the country. That's including Democrats and Republicans. So after, meaning there's these huge events which kind of draw everyone together like near. After those huge events, though, like life happens as, you know, like as it normally does, which means people have different opinions and people have, you know, different views on things, and slowly but surely, like they start to like kind of like drift apart, like in this kind of way, and leads to like radicalism in certain sense. So there's like a radical left and there's a radical right. Like people in 2012 felt like that, like Mitt Romney was like very radical, like or something like that, you know. And if you ask people now, they'd say like, oh, we would love to have like Mitt Romney as like a Republican candidate or something like that. And the only thing that kind of like reins it back together, like gets us, instead of like society going like completely, is these, from what I understand, again, I have to read the book, is these, you know, like earth-shaking events, which kind of brings everyone together. And I'll just, you know, like one last thing, similar to like, you know, like in Israel, on up to October 6th, you know, like in a, you know, future Israeli citizen, I don't live there right now, but there was like almost like a civil war like because of like these the government was like trying to pass like some thing about the judges, and both sides had different opinions on it, and like you'd have hundreds of thousands of people showing up and protesting. And then October 7th happened, which we know was terrible. And then I remember one of the best like tweets I saw like right afterwards was it had these two sold chayalim from Miluim reserves. They were standing next to each other with their arm around each other, and they said, this guy was one of the leaders of like, side A, and the other one was the other leader of side B. And in the court, like they really were against each other. But when something like a tremendous event like that happens, it brings everyone together back towards like the center. So that's what I'm looking forward to reading about the book more in depth. But it's I like the theory.
No, yeah, for sure. Like, and right now we are in the end of leftism. So everything that the left represent is becoming so too much to most people that's why people are so like hungry for a person like Trump, especially now with this attempt for assassination. Okay, so I think that's a great addition. So Arseni said as simple as possible, and protection. I really like the idea of protection, and then like also Moshe said, formed when there is hate. I think that's also a good point. And hate or suffering, so okay, so that's kind of a definition. Now let's speak about like how to evaluate and how to invest. So that's a topic that again, I would love to hear your thoughts. So first, how to evaluate. So I feel like we're in a point that is where it's like the point that we are in time right now. It's very similar to where Warren Buffett used to be when he started Berkshire Hathaway. So I feel like when Warren Buffett started Berkshire Hathaway, the idea of value investing was not a popular idea yet. Like, and he popularized this idea. And because he popularized the idea of how to evaluate things, he became popular and he became a successful investor. So it's kind of a reflexive thing. Maybe one could claim that he was not really a successful investor, but because he was a successful cult for investors that believe that this is how the world works, the investment was successful as well. So that's for another day. But I feel that this is also, like Berkshire Hathaway is also like a cult of investors that believe that this is how value works, and like, so if cultures will be the main denominator of value, how can you evaluate them? How can you evaluate? We'll speak how to invest in cults and like in a bit, but how to evaluate? How to evaluate? Because some of those things are not quantitative; they are very, very qualitative, and soft. Soft power. So, so how to approach kind of evaluate what is more important, what is less important, what is more kind of temporary, what is yes. Before I say what I think, do you have an opinion like how to approach as an investor when you're looking at something with culture, like how to think about evaluating how big of the potential, how important it is versus other things?
Yeah, I think for me, this is something that, we stay at the application layer. As a fund, we try to invest at the application layer. And so, part of why I brought up Ton earlier is because it's interesting when someone's building something, let's say an app that's using base optimism right now. It's a few different cult leaders working backwards. So it's like you've got Jesse with base working with the optimism crew, but then you have to work back towards Brian Armstrong and Chris Dixon, which is base. And then you have to work back towards Vitalik and Joe and the Ethereum crew. So now it's like you're looking at, and then basically Bitcoin crew, right? So if Bitcoin level, if you got Satoshi to Vitalik, to Brian and Chris, to Jesse, who is that new cult leader at layer 5 or layer 6? And who are they following? Like, who are they an acolyte of? Why are they on base optimism instead of Solana? Why are they on ton instead of base or instead of Solana? And so it's like, there's got to be something original in their fund. So they're trying to build their own community and their own cult, but they're sitting at tier 5 or 6. It's similar to you, a rabbi, I'd say, right? It's like at some point, it's like, what is the apostolic succession? Like, who did they follow, or who are they after, right?
This is a very good point, because you have the Satoshi religion of kind of decentralization and cyberpunk that we all based on. That is the most, like, almost the Bible. And then you have Ethereum, that is more kind of economy and not only money, but it's not necessarily only cyberpunk. Ethereum expanding into other more modern cultures within Ethereum. And then you mentioned optimism and base, which is also interesting, the public good funding and the idea of kind of region and so I think like Vitalik wrote a couple of years ago about public good funding, and then optimism was starting on the base of that. And then base, I need to think what base stands for.
Exactly. So you see what I'm saying? So it's like, what do they stand for is its own question, but also like, so when I'm talking to a founder, I think we watched a lot of funds in 22 and 23 over index on community. Like, how many NFTs have you sold? How many people have looked at your thing? But they under indexed on like valued long-term community members, or like valued use case where there's like a consistent reason to be here, like a country club membership where you're just going to keep paying it, or a Soho House membership where you're just going to keep paying it. Instead, it was more of like a one-time stop at a Chanel store where you bought one bag and they can't actually count on you in the future. And so it's been interesting to go back and forth and think through, why are your user numbers the way they are? How are you going to get more? How are they going to stay? And so I don't have a formal answer yet either, but I think when I say why base optimism, very few people jump straight to like, oh, well, Jesse is amazing at base. They'll jump to like, maybe regulatory clarity, right? Well, maybe base is easier. And it's like, well, I'd rather you give me a strong answer so I know that you're going to be like a cult leader, more or less, right? That you're going to be like a strong leader on your thing, and that you're tied to something that matters,
Yeah, and also like when you're thinking about how to evaluate, it's not about the how much, it's about the why. Like if you measure amounts of people, I feel like a lot of projects have millions of people from Nigeria or and it's not necessarily a contribution for value. And on the other hand, you look at things like, I know, even controversial things. Let's be controversial, like Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin Cash. They have not many people, but these are big believers. Like they believe that this is the truth. And Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin Cash is still top 100 for 4 years, for 3-4 years. So it's not a coincidence. Like these protocols have strong cults that get them, like these people will not sell. Like, so I feel it's like the strength of the belief. If you had a way to measure the strength of the belief and how far people will go for it, is a very good way to measure value, as opposed to amounts of people, because loyalty is very rare and very precious. So I feel like small amount of people that really will die for the thing is very valuable. Kaspa is another example for that. Like some people believe that Kaspa could be, Bitcoin for payments, or like the original vision, but they really believe it. So I feel like how to measure the strength of the belief is something very very powerful, because you see sometimes that it's not correlated with the amount of people that are just users, but smaller amount of people that are more like believers. I guess let's move into the spicy part. It's like examples of how to invest, or where to invest. I think, and again, if you have a kind of things to add, feel free to do it. Okay, so how to invest in cults or cultures? I feel there is parts to it within crypto, and I think there is outside of crypto, and I will say like how I'm kind of thinking about it. And okay, so I see basically from low to a high hanging fruit, how to invest in cults, because I see it like token to cult or cult to token. This is kind of the way I'm thinking about it. So token to cults is things that are already tokenized and have strong culture and are very early. And cult to token is things that do not have a token yet, are not in crypto. It's like trying to bring like in 2017, trying to bring e-commerce websites to do ICOs almost. It didn't work, but maybe here it could work because it's much more kind of open-ended. Okay, so I'll explain like the token to cult and cult to token, and if you have like more ideas about which movements to support and how to invest in movements, feel free to do so. So in general, the token to cult is second generation meme coins and proof of work blockchains and maybe other things, but things that I can see that already work is store of value, proof of work store of value, like Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin Cash, and Caspa. And then you have EVM with strong culture like Monad and Berachain, which will come in like 10 minutes. And then you have meme coins. And the meme coins, there is a first generation meme coins and second generation meme coins. So the first generation meme coins is just about fun. And the second generation meme coins is about something else. So about something else that people kind of rally around. And again, it's very, very early, but you see a couple examples of meme coins that are maybe like Giga, like Giga Chad that represent, the strong men that are going to the gym and so on. And there is a couple others, but it's really, really very early. So I think coins to cults are those examples. And if you have more examples, feel free to add. But this is the kind of coin to cults. And then there is also cult to coin. But if someone wants to add on the coin to cults side of things.
I don't know if this is me over-indexing or you under-indexing, but I think incentives is what matters on that. Like when someone like cults, like religious cults, it's always about heaven or afterlife, or maybe it's current life pleasure, right? But even the cults around tokens or tokens to cults, it's like, were you super early? Is it about pumping your bags? Is it about being close to the founders? Like incentive is just so huge, I think, on either one, and thinking you have a place to exist or a place to matter,
But how do you explain like Bitcoin kind of Bitcoin doesn't have any incentives to hold, or Ethereum Classic doesn't have any incentives to hold, or optimism. So those things are big beliefs that people are actually believing. They don't have a lot of incentives to hold or to stake. And so how would you explain the difference between them and new coins that are fundraising in the traditional approach, privately, and then went publicly, and their token is being dumped? They have a lot of incentives, but no one believes, So, like, how do you think about the belief versus the incentives?
Yeah, I guess maybe it would come down to like early believers, like prior to token existence level believers, or like immediate believers versus like if someone signed up for Monero or Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum Classic right now because they became a believer right now, they got radicalized for some reason.
Yeah.
I would be flabbergasted, right? I wouldn't understand the incentive structure or the reason. But if you're going to talk about a day one galvanized user, right, or someone who got the original airdrop or owns 0.5% of the network or has a huge vote at the Optimism DAO and gets to help like steer, like there's an incentive of power. And then of course there's the incentive of pump my bags still, but like the level of vote or influence or being in the private group chats with only 15 other people on the core team or whatever, like I still think this is important to keep in mind, like how many people created Ethereum, right? Like I think proverbial says Vitalik, the better answer is probably 9 people. The looser answer is 14, right? And then if you want to add Ethereum core devs, it's like 28 or something. So it's like when did you join? What level are you, right? Like there's still something associated with that I think is interesting. But this is an interesting combo.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, for sure. I think incentives are important, but there is I wish we would see more of things like Monero, things that have like deep values and not. And I think the distribution is very important part. That's why meme coins are so successful, even if they are not meaning anything. The pure distribution, fair distribution is enough to get people creating. So I feel like this fair distribution, we need to go back to the ICO days, and do the fair distribution. This two class investor state that we're at is very broken because most people don't have access, and the people that have access dumping on those people, and it's not working anymore. not for the VCs and not for the retail. So I agree that fair distribution from day one, even if you don't have any ideology, is very, very powerful. Okay, so going back to how to invest in cults. Wait, maybe I'll share the screen. So the way I thought about it is, again, coin to cults, and then cult to coin. So when you're speaking about cult to coin, how you think about it? What is cult in the real world that you can bring into crypto? And so I thought about it in three options, three kind of directions. One is mechanism to cult. One is, and I will explain. 2 is community to coin, and 3 is religion to coin. So first, mechanism to cult. So what is mechanism? Mechanism is when someone have Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin is a mechanism. Bitcoin is first a mechanism, second ideology. So when you're thinking about a mechanism, there is a solution, there is a product, there is something that is actually working in the real world that works to do something differently. So Bitcoin, use proof of work, use cryptography to create digital store of value or digital uniqueness in a world after 2008 that it wasn't possible, and it became a movement. But it started as a alternative kind of mechanism. And if you think other examples like bio.xyz is kind of a network of DeSci, like bunch of scientists and people that believe that we should go alternative way on the from the FDA. And another example is TinyBox. If you I don't know if you're familiar with this guy called George Hotz, and he built like a box that anyone can buy. This box can run, like LLM, and you can have your own private LLM. So that's kind of a counter thing to OpenAI and all of that. So that can become a cult based on this mechanism. So I feel like starting from mechanism to culture, and can also be to coin, but maybe and maybe not. It's kind of one thing to invest in outside of crypto. The second thing is community to meme coin, or community to store value, or community to EVM. And that's community like things that already happening in the real world. So a community of the people that are, people that are opioids addicted to opioids and kind of work to heal other opioids, people that are addicted to opioids. And there is a movement called Digital Shabbat, which is basically getting the world to keep Shabbat and kind of disconnected from the cell phones. And femcells is like women that are afraid of sex. So there is a lot of communities like that, but community to meme coin is like helping this community to rally around again, either a proof of work chain, EVM, or a meme coin. Could be other things like NFT collection and other things, but that's another thing. And then the third thing, which is religion to token, or religion to technology in general, and then to token. So there is a lot of like communities that are cultures within religions, like my rabbi, or like people that own like 100 churches, and sometimes those people are very technology oriented, about accelerationism and so forth. So I feel like there is a very interesting thought experiment to think there, like how to get them either into crypto, because they already have everything, all of the stack. They have the culture, they have the religion, they have the behavior, they have the language, they have everything. So I feel like it would be very interesting to kind of think about it. So yeah, that's the ways I thought about how to invest in cultures. But if you have like alternative ideas for how to go about it, yeah, feel free to.
I think something that for me, and it was a little confusing, like or difficult, is that just by nature of like I guess like the crypto world or something like that, it really seems like, let's not like BS, like Jacob, you could mention, because invest in a lot of places, that it's really all like monetarily and finance based. You know what I mean? Meaning like that, like and so like lots of people, let's say, have like what I would call like a homeroom, right? Like something where they place like a Discord group or something like that, or like a group chat where they go like like more often, like they start their day there, and then okay, I heard about the X, I heard about Y, I heard about Z, and all these like fledgling types of companies or projects are really trying to like start out. But for the most part, like again, like for me, like I really like this group called Anonymized. I've been there. 99% of the people that will interact with this is really just, okay, is there going to be a token drop? Is there going to, like, the culture, meaning everyone's trying to build a culture, but the second we get the token, the second we get like the alpha that something's going to happen, the second this and that, we're like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. I think that's just the nature of like like crypto. And I think that's very it's incredibly difficult when that's like the main incentive. When everyone's jumping from next shiny toy, which is literally every 5 minutes. Think about other places where like these types of cultures are like built, like I don't know, like work or things like that. So when you actually go to an office and you work with people, like then they, they're your friends, or you go to college and in your classes, these are your friends like that, like for like the next 50 years or whatever it is. Wherever you come up with like other types of these types of like types of cultures, I think it's very it's almost impossible. It's very difficult to to take, like, let's say the existing amount of people that, like, let's say are in this like space, and maybe they'll use a different product, maybe they'll use something else, but their allegiance and like their culture for the most part is pretty much like I think intact. I think what's really important is to attract, like, when new people come in, then that's like then that's kind of like an opportunity for like culture to exist. So for example, let's say like there was those crypto punks, right? And like they had a big like Discord, big chat, everything like that. And like, again, there was a big boom, let's say in 2020, 2021, because people, because of the pandemic, and people got a lot of like checks from the government. They had a lot of money lying around. That's like it's not a coincidence the stock market, stocks went up, and then meme stocks went up, and then like crypto, and then NFTs, and that's when like all these new people come. That's when new cultures can like kind of, I think, like be created for the most part. That's when, like, for example, okay, now there's Sport Apes, now there's like these other types of like all the other projects that start up, and like everyone wants to be like, okay, I don't want to buy Bored Ape now because it's 30 ETH, but like I could start something new, and let's like be like excited about it. the problem is when like you have like these like bust, and then there's like, you know, like a bust kind of cycle, is that when people leave, like you know, no one's like Jacob said, no one's going to buy Monero or something like that. You know, it's only when like you really only have it when like there's like, you know, like the main currency in this entire, I think, is like users, and like, you know, like and where are people choosing to spend their time, and where, like, you know, it's just similar to like, you know, like with the iPhone, like, and where people developing, and where people like and I think it's very, you know, unless like the goal is to hold on to something for like a week or a day or something like that, I think it's very difficult to like you know, you mentioned Yonatan, you mentioned like, you know, ICOs, like, you know, in 2017, how many companies that, let's say, ICO from 2017 are even remotely relevant today? Remotely relevant, meaning that like that everyone here would have heard of, you know? So I mean, that's, I don't know.
Yeah.